The massive crystalline dome of Summit Station sparkled against the harsh orange atmosphere of Helios Prime, its reinforced panels designed to withstand the planet's notorious atmospheric storms. Captain Zixtal, station commander and member of the crystalline Meridian species, observed the approaching vessel through all four of his sensory clusters. The ship's trajectory was unlike anything he'd seen in his 3 decades of running this trading post. "Captain, the approaching vessel is performing irregular maneuvers," reported First Officer Kitin, her metallic appendages clicking nervously against the control panel. "They appear to be deliberately flying through the storm bands rather than avoiding them." Zixtal's crystalline structure vibrated with concern. This sector of space was new to human exploration, and the stories he'd heard about their species were contradictory at best. Some claimed they were savage warriors, others insisted they were brilliant engineers, but all agreed on one thing: humans were unpredictable. "Open communication channels," Zixtal ordered, his translator converting his crystalline resonances into standard Galactic Basic. The response came immediately, accompanied by what he would later learn was human laughter. "Summit Station. This is Commander Reese Walker of the Earth vessel Storm Chaser, requesting permission to dock, and maybe a few tips about your local wind patterns." The casual tone caught Zixtal off guard. "Storm Chaser, your approach vector is highly irregular. Please adjust to standard docking procedures." "Negative on that." "Summit Station. We're gathering atmospheric data for the upcoming 5 Peaks Challenge. Don't worry, this baby's designed for much worse than a few Level 3 storm bands." Before Zixtal could respond, the ship executed a perfect barrel roll through a particularly dense storm cloud, emerging with its hull crackling with static discharge. The station's sensors indicated that rather than trying to avoid the electromagnetic disturbances, the ship was actively collecting data about them. As the Storm Chaser finally docked, Zixtal and a security detail made their way to the airlock. The ship's design was unlike any human vessel he'd seen in the briefings: sleeker, more angular, with what appeared to be external equipment pods along its hull. The airlock cycled, and Commander Walker emerged, followed by her crew. They wore form-fitting suits marked with logos and patches, some of which appeared to be corporate sponsorships. Walker herself was tall for a human, with dark skin and tightly braided hair decorated with metallic beads that caught the station's lights. "Captain Zixtal, pleasure to meet you in person." Walker extended her hand, then smoothly transitioned to a formal bow when she noticed his crystalline physiology wasn't suited for handshakes. "Sorry about the unconventional approach. We're scouting locations for humanity's first interstellar extreme sports competition." Extreme sports. The universal translator struggled with the concept. "Oh man, you're going to love this." Walker's face lit up with enthusiasm. "Imagine taking everything dangerous about space travel and turning it into an art form. That's what we do. We're athletes, adventurers, and maybe a little bit crazy, according to some species." Over the next few hours, Zixtal's understanding of humanity underwent a radical shift. Walker's crew transformed one of the station's cargo bays into a presentation center, displaying holographic recordings of their sports. Humans in wingsuits diving through gas-giant atmospheres, solar sail racing around binary stars, and something called null-gravity parkour that made several of his security staff's crystalline structures vibrate with anxiety. "But why?" Kikin finally asked, speaking for many of the gathered alien station staff. "These activities serve no practical purpose and carry significant risk of death." Walker smiled, a gesture Zixtal was beginning to associate with imminent human unpredictability. That's exactly what they said about space travel itself, wasn't it? Every species has their own way of pushing boundaries. We humans, we like to do it with style. The station's alert system chose that moment to chime, indicating an approaching storm front. Walker's crew immediately rushed to their observation equipment, their excitement palpable. "Captain," Walker turned to Zixtal, her eyes shining with what he would come to recognize as the uniquely human combination of scientific curiosity and reckless enthusiasm. How would you like to see what humans can really do in a storm? As Zixtal watched the humans prepare their equipment, he realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. These weren't just explorers or traders. They were artists who painted with danger, athletes who danced with death, and scientists who turned research into an extreme sport. The story of humanity's arrival at Summit Station would soon spread across the galaxy, but not for the reasons anyone expected. It wasn't their technology or their military might that would capture the imagination of 1,000 species. It was their unique ability to turn the most hostile environments in space into playgrounds, their determination to find joy in the face of danger, and their insistence on sharing that joy with every species they encountered. As the storm approached and Walker's crew began unfolding what they called atmospheric diving suits, Zixtal realized that his station's routine existence was about to become anything but routine. The humans had arrived, and they were about to show the galaxy a whole new way of experiencing the universe. The orbital path above Helios Prime gradually filled with ships from across the galaxy, their designs as varied as the species that crewed them. News of the humans' planned 5 Peaks Challenge had spread faster than a quantum transmission, drawing countless observers to Summit Station. Captain Zixtal watched from his office as Commander Walker's crew transformed the station's exterior, installing sensor arrays and what they called jump platforms at strategic points. "You're telling me," Zixtal resonated to his first officer, "that humans intend to jump from the edge of space, through 5 atmospheric layers, navigating between the planet's highest peaks, for entertainment?" Kitten's metallic appendages twisted in what he recognized as her gesture of disbelief. The Galactic Safety Council has already filed 3 formal protests. The Arxian delegation is threatening to withdraw from the trade alliance if we allow this spectacle. A holographic display activated, showing Commander Walker walking through a zero-gravity chamber. She wore what the humans called a wingsuit, its smart fabric rippling with diagnostic patterns. Behind her, her team was conducting final equipment checks, their movements precise despite what seemed like casual banter. "The Arxians might want to wait before they make that decision." Walker's voice came through the comm system. "What we're about to demonstrate isn't just sport. It's the next evolution in emergency planetary insertion technology." The station's sensors detected a new ship entering the system. Unlike the utilitarian design of the Storm Chaser, this vessel gleamed with the sleek, predatory lines of military architecture. The Arxian diplomatic vessel's arrival sent a wave of nervous energy through the station's alien population. High Ambassador Vexthor of the Arxian Dominion emerged from his ship like a storm cloud given physical form, his species characteristic bioluminescent patterns pulsing with barely contained anger. His security detail, bearing what were supposedly ceremonial but very real plasma weapons, flanked him as he approached the human delegation. "This is an outrage." Vexthor's translator rendered his subsonic growls into clipped, precise words. "You turn a vital trading post into a circus, risk valuable infrastructure for your primitive entertainment, and expect us to simply watch." Walker's response surprised everyone. She smiled and tossed something to the ambassador. A small, crystalline cube that projected a detailed hologram of Helios Prime's atmosphere. "Actually, Ambassador, we expect you to compete." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the station's ambient hum seemed to pause. "Your species prides itself on being apex predators, masters of the hunt," Walker continued, stepping forward. "We've studied your history. Before you achieved spaceflight, your people were legendary climbers, using your natural bioluminescence to navigate your world's deepest caverns. The 5 Peaks Challenge isn't just a human event. It's an invitation to every species to show what they can do." The ambassador's patterns shifted from angry red to a curious blue-green. "Explain." Over the next hour, Walker's team presented their full plan. The challenge wasn't just a descent through the atmosphere. It was a complex navigation problem requiring participants to interact with the planet's unique electromagnetic fields. The peaks themselves generated powerful energy vortexes, creating what humans called the most intense slalom course in the known galaxy. Each species has natural advantages, Walker explained, bringing up technical specifications. Archean bioluminescence could revolutionize night runs. Meridian crystalline structures could provide unprecedented sensor data. We're not just showing off. We're creating something new together. Zixtel watched as the ambassador's opposition gradually transformed into reluctant curiosity. The human approach was clever. By framing their dangerous sport as an opportunity for interspecies cooperation and technological advancement, they turned a diplomatic crisis into a cultural exchange. As the day progressed, more delegations arrived at the station. The massive Krolon, whose hydrogen-breathing physiology required special accommodation, sent their own team of atmospheric specialists. The ethereal Sylph, beings of pure energy, expressed interest in providing real-time weather monitoring. Even the normally reclusive Quantum Collective requested permission to observe what they termed an fascinating example of controlled chaos theory in action. In his quarters that evening, Zixtel reviewed the security footage of the human team's practice sessions. Their movements through the station's zero-gravity sections were nothing short of artistic. A dangerous dance that somehow straddled the line between reckless and precisely calculated. His crystalline structure resonated with a frequency he finally recognized as excitement. "Captain." Kitten's voice interrupted his reverie. "The humans are requesting permission to conduct a demonstration jump tomorrow. They want you to observe from their ship." Zixtel's response surprised even himself. "Tell them I'm not just going to observe. I want to understand exactly what they're planning to do to my station and my planet. And Kitten, have our fabrication units begin studying wingsuit designs. If we're going to host this event, we might as well learn what all the excitement is about." As he made his way to his rest cycle chamber, Zixtel reflected on how quickly things had changed. In just a few days, humanity hadn't just arrived at Summit Station. They transformed it into the focal point of a new kind of galactic cooperation. Whether this was brilliant diplomacy or lucky recklessness remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: the galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a very unmeridian thought began to form. Maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what they all needed. The first warning came from the Sylph observers, their energy forms flickering with unusual patterns as they monitored Helios Prime's atmospheric conditions. Something was wrong with the planet's electromagnetic field. Very wrong. "These readings can't be accurate," Commander Walker muttered, studying the holographic display in Summit Station's control center. Around her, representatives from a dozen species watched as the planet's storm patterns shifted into configurations that defied all known meteorological models. Captain Zixtel's crystalline structure vibrated at a frequency that humans had learned to recognize as deep concern. "The Sylph are never wrong about atmospheric conditions, Commander. Their entire civilization exists as wave patterns in gas giants. If they say something's wrong, then something's very wrong," Walker finished, her fingers dancing over the control interface. "But these patterns, they're not natural. Look at the symmetry in the distribution." The station's sensors suddenly blared to life, warning klaxons echoing through every deck. A massive storm system was forming directly below them, its eye perfectly centered on Summit Station's position. Energy readings were off the scale. "Everyone to emergency stations," Zixtel ordered, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid crystalline resonances. "Begin evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel." That's when the second revelation hit. Kitten burst into the control center, her metallic appendages clicking frantically. "Captain, the emergency shuttles, they're not responding. Someone's locked us out of the evacuation systems." Walker's team was already moving. "Permission to access your core systems, Captain," she asked, though her crew was already unpacking equipment. "We might be able to bypass the lockout." "Granted," Zixtel responded without hesitation. "Kitten, give them full access. As the human tech specialists worked, Ambassador Vex Thor's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with growing agitation. "This is no coincidence," he growled. "The timing, the precision. This is an attack." The ambassador's words were proven right moments later when Walker's team made a breakthrough. "Found something," called out Lieutenant Kai Patel, the Storm Chaser's systems specialist. "The lockout originated from inside the station. Someone uploaded a virus into the core systems during the last maintenance cycle." Security footage revealed the truth. A group of what appeared to be maintenance workers had accessed critical systems throughout the station over the past week. Their credentials were perfect, too perfect. Synthetics, Katin realized. Highly advanced androids designed to pass as organic beings. But who ruled? The hegemony. Vex Thor's patterns flashed crimson. "They've opposed our trade alliance from the beginning. This station represents everything they fear. Cooperation between organic species, cultural exchange, technological sharing." The storm below was growing stronger by the minute. Energy readings suggested it would reach the station in less than 3 hours. Without the evacuation systems, over 10,000 beings were trapped in its path. "We can't fix the evacuation systems in time," Paddle reported grimly. "The virus is too deeply embedded. We'd need to do a complete core reset, and that would take days." Commander Walker had been unusually quiet, studying both the storm data and the station schematics. A smile slowly spread across her face, the kind of smile that Sixtel had learned meant humans were about to suggest something either brilliant or insane. "We don't need to evacuate everyone," she said. "We just need to move the station." The control room erupted in overlapping translations as multiple species tried to explain why this was impossible. Summit Station was a fixed installation, anchored to its position by massive gravitational tethers. Moving it would require the electromagnetic fields from the storm. Walker continued, pulling up technical diagrams. "They're not random. The hegemony designed them to tear this station apart. But what if we could use those same forces to push us to safety?" She turned to the Sylph observers, their energy forms swirling with interest. "Your people understand atmospheric patterns better than anyone. Could you help us map safe corridors through the storm?" To the Arxian delegation, "Your ships have the strongest shields in the galaxy. If we coordinated them in a defensive screen." To Sixtel, "And your station's crystalline architecture. It's not just for show, is it? The whole structure can resonate at specific frequencies." Understanding dawned across multiple species simultaneously. It was absurd, unprecedented, and exactly the kind of solution that could only come from a species crazy enough to turn atmospheric diving into a sport. "You want to turn my entire station into a surfboard," Sixtel said, his translator struggling to find the right words. "And ride the storm out." Walker's grin widened. "Better. I want to turn it into the biggest wingsuit in history. But we'll need everyone's help. Every species working together, using their unique abilities in ways nobody's ever tried before." The storm raged below, growing stronger by the minute. In the control room of Summit Station, a dozen different species looked at each other, then at the impossible human plan taking shape before them. "Well," Ambassador Vex Thor's patterns shifted to a color nobody had seen before. "If we're going to die anyway, we might as well do it spectacularly." Commander Walker was already calling her team. "Get every atmospheric diver we have suited up. Contact all the teams that came for the 5 Peaks Challenge. Looks like we're giving them a different kind of show." As the station mobilized for what would either be their greatest triumph or their last hour, Sixtel realized humanity hadn't just brought sports to his station. They'd brought their most powerful gift, the ability to look at certain death and see an opportunity for something amazing instead. Summit Station hummed with an entirely new frequency as thousands of beings worked to transform it into something unprecedented in galactic history. Commander Walker's atmospheric diving team had spread throughout the structure, attaching modified guidance systems to key structural points. Their usual competition gear, repurposed for this desperate plan, looked almost absurdly small against the massive station. Next phase ready, Lieutenant Pottle reported from his position in the Auxiliary Control Center. Arxian shield grid is at 90% coverage. The Sylph have mapped our optimal trajectory through the storm bands. Captain Zixtal watched as his station's crystalline structure began to pulse with carefully calculated resonance patterns. The entire station was becoming one massive harmonic instrument, designed to ride the electromagnetic waves of the approaching storm. His species had spent generations perfecting the art of crystalline architecture, but never had they attempted anything like this. "We've got movement." Kitten's voice cut through the command frequency. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. Hegemony signatures. Walker's response was immediate. "They're here to watch their handiwork. Let's give them a different kind of show." All teams, final positions. Throughout the station, scenes of unprecedented cooperation unfolded. Arxian warriors, their bioluminescent patterns synchronizing with the station's new rhythm. Manned shield control stations. The Sylph's energy forms merged with the station's sensor arrays, providing real-time atmospheric data with impossible precision. Even the Quantum Collective had contributed, their probability matrices helping to calculate the safest path through the chaos below. Storm front approaching critical threshold. The Sylph observers reported, their translated voice a chorus of harmonics. Time to impact, 15 minutes. Walker turned to Zixtal, her expression serious. "Captain, once we begin, there's no stopping. The resonance patterns will either carry us through or tear us apart." "Are you sure?" "Commander," Zixtal interrupted, his crystalline form glowing with determination. "My station was built to bring species together. If it's going to face destruction, let it be while proving that cooperation is stronger than fear." The storm rose toward them like a wall of angry gods, its electromagnetic forces already making the station's outer sections creak. The hegemony ships held position just outside the system's gravity well, their sensors undoubtedly recording what they expected to be the death of this experiment in interspecies cooperation. "All atmospheric divers in position," Pottle reported. "External guidance systems online. Resonance patterns stable." Walker took her position at the modified control interface. "Begin harmonic sequence. Sylph team, light our path. Arxian shields to full power. Station resonance in 3, 2, 1. The first wave hit like a hammer of pure energy. Throughout the station, beams of every species held on as their world tilted. The crystalline structure of Summit Station sang with frequencies that had never existed before, its massive form beginning to move like a leaf in a hurricane. First barrier approaching. The Sylph chorus warned. Electromagnetic density exceeding safety parameters. Walker's hands flew over the controls, coordinating with the atmospheric divers positioned around the station's exterior. Their suits' guidance systems, designed for high-speed atmospheric insertion, now helped guide a station of over 10,000 souls through an impossible storm. Port side resonance weakening. Kitten reported. Structure stress approaching critical. Reroute power from secondary systems, Walker ordered. Arxian team, concentrate shields on the port arrays. The station twisted through the storm like a massive spacecraft performing a ballet. Each move was calculated to use the storm's own energy, turning destructive forces into momentum. The hegemony's weapon was becoming their salvation. Unknown energy signature detected. Patel's voice carried an edge of panic. The hegemony ships. They're charging weapons. They're not going to let us succeed. Vex Thor growled, his patterns flashing war red. This was never just about destroying the station. They want to eliminate every witness to their act. Walker's response was cut off as a massive energy burst from the hegemony ships, sliced through space toward them. But something unexpected happened. The beam hit the storm's electromagnetic field and bent. The storm, the Sylph chorus, sang with sudden understanding. Its patterns are refracting their energy weapons. Understanding dawned across multiple species simultaneously. the hegemony's own weapon. The storm they had engineered to destroy Summit Station was now protecting it, its electromagnetic fields turning their attacks back upon them. All teams, hold on. Walker's voice carried above the station's harmonic song. We're about to thread the needle. Summit Station dove through a corridor of relatively calm space within the storm, its crystalline structure resonating in perfect harmony with the chaos around it. Thousands of beings, their combined knowledge and abilities working as one, guided the massive structure through what should have been impossible. As they burst through the final storm barrier into clear space, the station's populations erupted in celebrations that transcended species barriers. They had done more than survive. They had turned an act of terrorism into the greatest extreme sports demonstration in galactic history. Looking at the sensor readings of the retreating hegemony ships, Captain Zixtal's crystalline structure resonated with what could only be described as laughter. "Commander Walker," he said, "I believe we just qualified for the Five Peaks Challenge." Walker's grin was visible even through her atmospheric diving suit's faceplate. "Captain, I think we just invented a whole new sport." 1 month after the Great Storm Ride, as it had come to be known across the galaxy, Summit Station was hosting a very different kind of ceremony than originally planned. The massive gathering hall, originally designed for trade negotiations, now held representatives from over 30 species, all gathered to witness something unprecedented. Captain Zixtal stood at the main podium, his crystalline structure gleaming under the ceremonial lights. Beside him, Commander Walker wore her formal uniform, though anyone looking closely could see she'd subtly modified it with elements of her atmospheric diving suit. When humans first arrived at this station, Zixtal began, his translator perfectly conveying the harmonics of formal speech. Many of us thought they were simply reckless thrill seekers. We could not have been more wrong, or more right, at the same time. Laughter rippled through the assembled crowds, each species expressing amusement in their own unique way. The sylph pulsed with harmonic frequencies, while the Arxians' bioluminescent patterns danced with mirth. "The events of the past month have taught us all something profound," Zixtal continued. "What we perceived as reckless entertainment was actually something far more valuable, the human gift for turning adversity into opportunity, danger into art, and solitary challenges into collective achievements." The main display activated, showing footage from the station's dramatic ride through the storm. The images have become famous across the galaxy, spawning everything from scientific studies to entertainment programs. The Quantum Collective had even created a new probability framework based on what they termed the human factor, the tendency for humans to successfully attempt what pure mathematics deemed impossible. Today, Walker stepped forward. "We're not just celebrating survival. We're inaugurating something new, the Galactic Exchange Program for Extreme Sports and Emergency Response, GEPSER for short." The announcement triggered a wave of excitement through the hall. The program had been weeks in development, combining the original goals of the Five Peaks Challenge with the lessons learned during the station's desperate escape. "Every species has unique abilities," Walker explained. "The sylph understand atmospheric patterns in ways we never could. The Arxians have mastered shield harmonics beyond our comprehension. The Meridians can create architectural wonders that defy conventional physics. But humans, we specialize in finding new ways to use those abilities, especially ways that nobody else would think to try." Displays around the hall activated, showing the first class of GEPSER trainees, Arxian warriors learning to use their bioluminescence for nighttime atmospheric diving. Self-energy forms practicing precision guidance through electromagnetic fields. Even members of the Quantum Collective, their probability matrices interfacing with modified extreme sports gear to calculate optimal trajectories. The hegemony attacked this station because they feared cooperation between species. Vex Thor spoke up from his position in the front row, his patterns glowing with pride. "They believed our differences made us weak. Instead, we proved that those very differences make us stronger." The ceremony continued with demonstrations from the various training programs. Humans had adapted their extreme sports equipment and techniques for dozens of different physiologies. The sight of an Archean warrior performing a perfect atmospheric dive, their bioluminescent patterns creating a beautiful light show through the storm clouds, drew gasps of appreciation from the crowd. But perhaps most importantly, Zixtal concluded, we've created something that goes beyond sport or emergency response. We've created understanding. Every species that participates in GEPSER learns not just new skills, but new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing the universe, and their place in it. The station's sensors suddenly picked up an unusual reading. A massive electromagnetic storm was forming in the upper atmosphere, but instead of panic, the announcement was met with excitement. The first graduating class of GEPSER was about to demonstrate their skills. Teams of mixed species prepared their equipment, each member contributing their unique abilities to the group. Humans provided the core techniques and equipment designs, while other species adapted and improved them in ways the humans had never imagined possible. As Captain Zixtal watched the teams launch into the storm, their movements coordinated and confident, he reflected on how much had changed. His station, once a simple trade hub, had become something far more important, a symbol of what different species could achieve together. Commander Walker appeared beside him at the observation window. Amazing what can happen when you combine human crazy with alien awesome, isn't it? Indeed, Zixtal resonated warmly. Though I'm still not entirely sure this qualifies as crazy by human standards. Walker's grin was answer enough. Oh, just wait until you see what we're planning for next year's competition. Ever heard of solar wind surfing? As Zixtal's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been either anxiety or excitement, he realized that the galaxy would never be quite the same. The humans hadn't just brought their sports or their technology. They'd brought their unique way of looking at the universe, of seeing challenges as opportunities and differences as strengths. The riders had appeared, and with them came a new age of galactic cooperation, one impossible stunt at a time.